All right, good afternoon, everyone. So, this afternoon we are going to look at periodic reviews with Obsidian. So, the topic of today is periodic reviews and how you can perform those using Obsidian and Obsidian plugins to make the process both efficient, easier, and systematic, because that's one of the most important aspects. So, what are periodic reviews? You might wonder. If you don't know, it's a technique, productivity technique that you can use to organize your life in both ways. So first, you can look back at the past, and so take a look back at what has happened within the last week, within the last month, within the last quarter, the last year, etc. And so you can try and get a clear idea, an objective evaluation, let's say, of what happened in the past. And so that's one thing you can do through such reviews. Another one is looking forward. So it's about thinking and planning and organizing your future actions. And so, in light of what has happened in the past, what you have succeeded at, failed at, what you have learned, then you can use that information as input to guide your decisions about the future. So, choosing your next goals, your next projects, your current priorities, basically where you want to go next. And so this is something that you can do at different time intervals. And so I recommend actually doing that first each week. So once every week, you just meet with yourself and you take some time to think about what has happened in the last week and what you want to do in the next. So that's one period that you can use this for. The next is monthly. So each month you can look at the past weeks and evaluate, okay, where did I fail? Where did I succeed? What went well? What should have I done differently? What have I achieved? What am I grateful for? So these are the kinds of questions that you can ask yourself during such reviews. And you can do that also quarterly and yearly, and actually also each and every day. It just takes a few minutes at most. You just summarize your day and you plan the next day so that when that next day starts, everything is already clear in your mind. You know what you need to do. You know exactly what your priorities are, what matters and what doesn't. And so if you do that at those regular intervals, so at least once a week and then maybe at additional periods of time, then those periodic reviews actually have a big impact on your productivity. And I would say it's more than productivity because I'm not a big believer in hustling, so working just for the pleasure of working and working hard all day long. But I do believe that this practice is also useful for personal development, for happiness, for better understanding and being more objective about the past and more realistic about the future. Also about setting ambitious goals, because when you look forward for a long enough time horizon, such as what do I want to achieve in the next 5 years, for instance, then the goals that you are going to set are going to be vastly different from the ones that you would set if you were just thinking about what am I going to do today or this week or this month, because those are low level. But when you scale that up and perform those periodic reviews at larger time horizons, then something nice happens is that you get to think more strategically about your next steps, basically. And so it's not just about the tactical details of day-to-day life, but rather the path that you want to follow in your life or career. And so it's quite impactful. And that's why it's something that I discuss a lot about and that I cover a lot in my articles and videos, is that I believe that more people ought to be spending time doing such reviews. Now, diving into the how, and specifically with Obsidian, I'm going to cover the way I approach this within my own Obsidian vault and practice. And the center of it all is actually journaling. So to me, journaling is both something enjoyable, something nice to capture specific moments that you want to remember. So, it's the classical idea of a journal, a diary. But it's more than that. It's something that you can use just like I'm doing right now, as something that you can use to plan your day. So inside of a daily note, such as this one, that's today's note for me, I have my plan for today, so I know exactly the things that I want to be doing. So these are the next things on my agenda for today. I can take notes throughout the day about different things. I can capture what I have achieved today. I can also capture what I'm excited about. So did I discover something that I want to share with other people that I find really inspiring or whatever? I can also track what I've learned or discovered during that day and more if you want. So the challenges I faced, what I'm grateful for, and things like that. So the base idea, I would say, of journaling to me is what is called interstitial journaling. It's difficult to pronounce. But basically, this is an approach of journaling where what you're going to do is actually use the journal not as something that you use just from time to time when you think about it once a week, once a month, once a year, whatever, but rather using it as a tool that you are using basically throughout the day. And so not as a one-time thing, but as a continuum. So something that is integrally integrated inside of everything you do. And in my case, this daily note, is something that I have opened all the time. So whenever I'm working on my computer or laptop or whatever, I try to keep it around. First, so that I can quickly remember what I should focus on right now, what I should focus on next, but also to have a place where I can capture the information that I have discussed. Because without this, then I would be with sheets of paper that would get lost. I wouldn't take notes and I would forget. So maybe 2 days from now, or maybe tomorrow, I will have forgotten what I have achieved on this particular day. But thanks to interstitial journaling and the fact that I'm using these daily notes all of the time, it means that if I look back at the notes for a given period of time, so say a week, a month, whatever, I can learn a ton about what has happened during that time. So yesterday, for instance, this is what I have achieved. So I have published a new article. I have worked on my website. I made some improvements here and there. I tested some new tools, AI tools. I learned about the PASS framework, name I didn't know, even though it's a technique that I do now. I've improved my AI writing assistant, right? And I looked into the Vibe Kanban application. So these are just basic examples, but basically it's all in there. And that means that even a year from now or 5 years from now, assuming I didn't lose these files, I will still be able to go back to these and take a look at those. And so this is the essence, let's say, of interstitial journaling. So you have a visualization that I worked on previously for a workshop in the NOE community. And so basically, you start with a journal. That's really the central point of the discussion that I want to make before we dive into the technical details, let's say, of how to do it with Obsidian. And so there is a strong relationship between this journal, your personal health, your growth, personal and professional, your well-being and whatever. So there are various benefits to journaling that you can take into account. And I have mentioned many of those in my articles and also in my notes and in the workshop. But basically what you do is you start with interstitial journaling, and through that, you capture those different things that we have discussed. So we have the plan for the day, the notes, the achievements, things like that. You are not forced to do all this. This can be just 1 or 2 lines if you are just starting out. That's fine. This is maybe a bit more advanced. But the thing is that over time, you capture that information in specific notes. So here I could go back to August of last year. And yeah, this is what happened last year in August. I was working on my week planner app. As you can see, all of the stuff that I've captured, not that much on that day, but still, this is something that is not lost and I can still go back to. And then where it gets more interesting is that those compound. So if we take a larger look at how this happens, well, every day you capture different things from one day to the next, and you continue and so on. And then what you can do is go one level above that. And I would say as a starting point, this is great. This is really where you should start with this. But then what you can do is add more layers to it. So you can create one note each week. So when you do a weekly review, then you can take a look at all of those daily notes that you have taken one by one, and then summarize or copy or whatever the information that you care about inside of a weekly note. And then that weekly note becomes basically a summary of everything that's happened and that was meaningful or important to remind or remember of that week. And so it means that when you have this, those matter a lot less because you don't have to go back to those specific ones. What you can do is take a look at this one, and this gives you a good idea about what happened during that week. And of course, you can continue doing that and go from one time horizon to the next. And so one level above, then you can roll up the information inside of a monthly note, then maybe in a quarterly note, and then in a yearly note. And then you can end up with something like this, which is basically what informed my latest article, so my yearly review. So this is basically a huge note that I have written that contains the key stuff that has happened in my life in the past year. So in 2025, these are all of the major things that I worked on, my successes, my failures, things I'm grateful for on a personal level, on a professional level. And also, I can use those, as I said, to look forward, not only backwards. So this is giving a look at what negative, the past thing that have happened. But also I have here, if we look, I just have to find it back inside here. So these are the details of the things that I have published. Yeah, it's best if I look at my plan 2026, or rather this way. Yeah, just give me a sec. So now what I can do is also look ahead and so plan ahead things. I can think about, okay, this is what happened last year, but now I can think about what do I want to achieve in the next period of time. And so you have all of those different time horizons that you can focus on. So days, weeks, months, etc. And those you can look at for the past, and you can plan ahead for the future at different scales. So next day, next week, next month, next year. And so here are what I have in this 2025 note is basically my plan for 2026, for my business, for my personal life, the different levels. So these are the things that I want to focus on soon, and I'm into it right now. I'm recording this video, and I said this was one of my major goals for 2026. And so here I am. It's part of my plan, but I know that I need to be doing this because I've chosen those goals. I have prioritized those compared to other things that I could be doing right now. And so this is the starting point. As I said, I think and I consider that journaling is really central to developing basically a practice of periodic reviews. And so looking back and planning ahead. That's why I wanted to discuss it first. Now we can dive into, let's say, the technical details. If you want more to learn more about journaling and the approaches and the theory behind it and the details, let's say, I have recorded a full workshop. I think it lasts 1.5 hours or 2 hours for the NOE community. I will add the link in the show notes. And basically that dives into all of those details, and the schema that I quickly looked at with you is explained in much more details, and the practice and the workflows are also described. In addition to the different resources about those topics that you can find. Okay, so now that's behind us, let's focus on the technicalities, let's say. So as I said, I'm using Obsidian. We are in Obsidian right now. And so in Obsidian, what I have is a space where I'm storing my journal. So here I have the 40 journal folder that contains subfolders, and inside of each of those, I have the different time horizons that I have discussed. So the daily notes, the weeklies, the monthlies, etc. And so this is well organized, and the organization system that's in there, it's basically based on the Obsidian Starter Kit. So it's a separate product that I have created that I'm using myself. So it's basically built based on my own practice. It's used by over 1,000 people right now, so it's quite it's something that I'm proud of. And so here you can see that I have my notes for 2026, the first week, now the second week, and the weeklies, and all of the other ones. Now, if you were to create all of those notes manually, it would be a burden. It's annoying because you would have to think if you were doing this manually. Let's say that I want to create the note for tomorrow. I would have to do this. Okay, what's the date for tomorrow? 2026 01 07. Then you have to set a title for that note, and then you can start. But what are the sections? So I have my tasks. I have, well, yeah, let's say notes, achievements, yeah, whatever. This is boring, and this is not what you want to do. So the first thing that you can do is, instead of doing this manually, is using templates. And so I have a template for daily notes that's also included in the Obsidian Starter Kit. So basically here I'm invoking the templating engine, applying this template, and now my note is created with everything that I need. And actually it's even simpler than that. So if I go to the day even after, just type daily, boom, that's done, I can use it. This is a time saver. So what you have just seen is an Obsidian template, and I can show you a bit what it looks like. It's a file, markdown file inside of the Vault, just like any other. This is a quite popular approach to creating templates. So basically, the file contains the classic markdown syntax with the sections, and above here you can see that there are different markups that are being used, and this is the way to basically add the comments that are necessary to isolate the properties of the node. So these are properties added to my daily notes. And the way these templates work is that you have to use a plugin. In this case, I'm relying on a plugin that is called Templator. So if you go to the settings, or rather to the community plugins, you can browse, you can look for Templator. In my case, it's already installed. And once you have that installed, you can access the plugin settings. And in my case, it's looking for templates inside of that folder. And that's why when I'm hitting this shortcut here, Alt E, I can type template daily and I can find my template. Now, as I mentioned, the syntax that is being used is specific to that plugin. So that's how this plugin will introduce the name of the file here, because I'm using the dates as file names. I can use the file name here as the date property value, and same thing for other stuff. You can even write little programs using this. In this case, it's an example where the file on which the template is applied will be automatically moved to a specific folder. And so that's just one way to easily organize your notes inside of Obsidian. And the nice thing here is that if I were to create 2027 or 510, whatever, you can see that right now that note is at the root of my Obsidian Vault. So it's not where it should be. It should be in my journal. And so if I just now apply the daily note templates, you can see that this note has moved to 2027. Okay, I'm going to delete this one. I don't need it right now. It's too far. But so, yeah, that's one thing that I'm using. So the Templator plugin is a nice plugin that you can use because it simplifies the creation of notes. It also standardizes the way that you take notes, because each day I have basically the same template that I'm using. So there's no question about, yeah, where should this go? I'm used to it. I'm using this every single day. So it's quite straightforward to use, and you have the memory muscles that start to be active for this. All right, so we have discussed interstitial journaling, periodic reviews. We have looked really quickly at the templator plugin for Obsidian. The next thing that I'm using here is the periodic notes plugin for Obsidian. So the periodic notes plugin for Obsidian is a plugin that defines configuration for periodic notes. And so if we look here inside of my installed plugins, same way to install it, you just go to community plugins. When you have this plugin installed and you configure it, you can basically define the organizational and naming convention for your notes, for your periodic notes. So in the case of my daily notes, those are enabled. What I do is I organize those by year, then by week, then you have the name of the daily note, which is formatted as the year, then the month, and the day. So this clarifies how you want to organize and name your periodic notes. Sorry. And so along with that, you also have the configuration of a template. So in this case, I'm pointing to my daily note template, which means that whenever I use this plugin to create a daily note, it will use the right template and it will apply it to that daily note. And I will showcase this in a second. Then you have also the base folder where those types of notes, so in this case dailies, should be stored. That's the starting point. And so inside of the daily notes folder, you will find a folder with the year. Inside of that, a folder with the week, and then finally the daily notes themselves. And so you have that for daily notes, for weekly notes, for monthlies, etc. In my case, I'm using all of those. And so this plugin is very, very useful. It's simple. I don't think it's maintained anymore, but doesn't matter too much. It's been quite stable over the years. And it works quite well. So now what it adds, in addition to those configurations, because that would be quite useless, is buttons like this. So if you right click when that plugin is installed, of course, in your ribbon here on the left in Obsidian, you can enable or show different buttons. One that I use quite often is the Open Today button. And so this is added by the Periodic Notes plugin for Obsidian. And when you click on that one, what it will do is either open your daily note if it already exists, or create it and apply the template to it if it doesn't. And so here, what you can also do is right click on it and you can open this week, open this month. And so if I do open this week, I don't think I have created my weekly note yet. In this case, what it does is it created this note for me and it automatically applied my weekly note template to it. And I could have done the same like you saw before, creating a note with the right name and then applying my weekly note template. This is just a convenience. It's just easier to use in practice. Same thing with the monthly note. You can easily create it, and that's a real time saver. All right. I think that there's more to it if I remember correctly, but it's not something that I'm using often. There's also commands that you can use. So you can open your daily, weekly, or whatever notes easily using one of those commands. And I think that there's also a calendar view that is coming with this plugin. Just have to find it back because I did not use it for a while. Let me think, maybe it's right here. Calendar, maybe. No, wait, it's a different plugin. Actually, it's the one that I was going to forget mentioning. And maybe it's not installed anymore in my vault. I will check. The calendar plugin. So if we go here, calendar, yeah, it's disabled. That's why I couldn't see it. I think that's the one. But normally with that plugin, you get one more button here. Open agenda, I don't think that's the one. Yeah, I will have to look it up. Mini calendar, maybe that, but I'm not sure. So we have this one, advanced calendar. No, that's not the one. And the mini calendar, either. No, that's coming from the task notes plugin. So that's not it. Whatever. We'll look into that later. But basically, normally you have through that other plugin, so the calendar plugin, it has an integration with the periodic notes plugin, and it gives an additional view that you can open, maybe like this calendar. No, I don't have it. Sorry. But yeah, what's nice with that plugin is that it shows a calendar on which you can click on the date, and it will do the same as the periodic notes plugin. So it's going to use that configuration to create the corresponding note. So for instance, the note of the day, and directly open it and apply the template to it. And on the calendar, you will see the days where you have taken notes and the days where you have missed or not created notes. Whatever, so let's forget that then. The next thing I'm using, and I've already mentioned this actually, is the Obsidian Starter Kit plugin. Actually, it's a template vault for Obsidian, so it's not a plugin per se. It's something that includes folder structure, so basically the structure that you are seeing now here, so organizing all of your nodes. It contains also the templates that I have been using and that I have shown here. It contains also a deep user guide. It contains a set of plugins that are coming pre-configured. So the fact that I have this here in the periodic notes plugins configuration already set up, that comes along with the Obsidian Starter Kit. And as I said, there's also a detailed user guide. That contains hundreds of pages of documentation about all of the systems that are included. So there's the theory behind knowledge management and Obsidian and how to use it. There are tutorials, reference documentation about the different bases that are included, the folder structure, plugins, etc., etc. There's a ton of stuff in there. Another thing that's also included, and then I will stop with the promotion about this, is a set of Obsidian bases. And so you get bases that are pre-configured with different things. There's one that is quite relevant for this video. It's the time base. And inside of the time base, what you have is a place where you can see your meetings, your weekly reviews, monthly, quarterly, etc. It's all in there. And last but not least, I'm using something that's not included yet in the Obsidian Starter Kit, but that I will add later on, sooner than later, let's say. And that's called the Journal Basis plugin for Obsidian. So the Journal Basis for plugin for Obsidian is a plugin that I've created that is open source, so it's available on GitHub. You can go there and grab a release, so the zip. It's not currently possible to install it through the community plugins, but it will be soon. And what that plugin does is add a new Obsidian base view types. That's a mouthful. That you can use to more easily perform your periodic reviews. So before we get to that one, I first want to show you how I was performing periodic reviews before. So as I said, looking back, planning ahead, those two sides, the idea is that I would have my daily notes, just like this one and all the other ones. And then I would create a weekly note like this one. And what I would do, or what I was doing in the past, is I would look at those two side by side. And then, okay, we are going to start with Monday. So what happened on Monday? Okay, I did all this. Oh yeah, that was quite interesting. I really wanted to publish that article. So I'm glad I did. I can track that achievement. I was excited about Claude in Chrome. It's definitely something that I want to include in the newsletter. So I'm going to mention it here. or maybe I will add it to the parts of the things that I'm excited about. I've learned about all of those things. I can mention those for that day. And so this was the way I did my periodic review. So each time I did one, and then I switched to the next one, and etc. etc. And when I went and reached the monthly review, then what I would do is create a monthly note, and then I looked at those side by side. Actually, don't need the other one anymore, so we can focus on weeks and months and do the same process. This works well. That's the nice thing with Obsidian. You can display all of those next to each other, and it's quite easy to navigate between your dailies, weeklies, etc. notes. But I wanted something more. And so that's why I've built another Obsidian plugin that I'm now using for these periodic reviews. And that plugin is called the Periodic Basis. Why Basis? Because it adds new view types to Obsidian. So by default, when you have Obsidian, now you have access to bases. And inside of a base, so just to step back a bit, creating a base, you just go to any folder, you right click, you click on new base, you have a base. By default, it shows all of the nodes and all of the files in your vault. So this will be my whatever base. And the first thing that you do with a base is you filter the information. So let's say I want to focus on, let's say it's exactly type / periodic. I want to focus on my daily notes. Well, what I can do, if I'm not doing this wrong, sorry, let's do it again. No, this one. File tags contain, that's going to be better. And so now in my base, what I see are all of my daily notes. Now, what I can do is display some properties. And so, for instance, I have a property with the date, and I can use that or that one to sort. So now I see from the most recent to the oldest. But I can also display additional information. So I have a property about sleep interruptions. Yeah, can display information there. If I have other properties, I can display any of those. And so it's quite easy using Basis to look at specific sets of nodes through the lens of a database or just as a database. So it's quite comparable to Notion databases. And so inside of one Obsidian base, you can have multiple views, and each view has a specific layout. And so you have different layouts supported out of the box. You have the table, you have cards, lists. I'm not so sure. Maybe this is already coming from a plugin. Map is coming from a very specific plugin created by the Obsidian team. But that's about it. So out of the box, you don't get many base view types. But the nice thing is that the Obsidian team has created a wonderful API to create custom Obsidian base view types. And so now it enables software developers such as myself and others to create new base view types. And in the future, I'm quite convinced that the Obsidian team is going to add more and more base view types. That's going to be awesome. But right now, it's already possible through plugins such as the Task Notes plugin and others to actually add information, add new view types to those bases. And so just to show you one more example coming from the Obsidian Starter Kit, I have this Kanban view here. That's a custom base view type provided by the Task Notes plugin. And so through this one, you get a nice Kanban board that you can use. And so this displays different types of nodes in my vault. So I have organized my goals, my plans, my projects, tasks, etc. Inside specific folders and with specific tags. And thanks to that, and thanks to these custom-based views, I'm able to see those tasks on a Kanban board here, which is quite nice. But I could also look at the same information. So let's say my goals as a table, for instance. All right, enough about bases. Let's go back to my time base. And so, as I said, the plugin that I've created, so the journal basis plugin, provides additional view types, base view types. And so there are two of those. The first one is periodic notes, and the second one is periodic review. Periodic notes basically shows you for a specific type of periodicity, so dailies, weeklies, etc. notes, shows you all of those as a timeline. And the grayed out ones are the ones that don't exist yet. And if you click on one, click on the create button, what it's going to do is it's going to create that note and it's going to apply the template to the note. Yeah, that's the demo effect, I guess. I know it's working actually. It was created and it's right there. It's just that when you create one, the next that does not exist yet is shown. And so, yeah, I could wait for long, but that's working. All right. And that's just not about listing those things, but it's also about being able to easily navigate between all of those daily notes. So in my template, the Obsidian Starter Kit daily note template, I have those links. So these enable already navigating between different types of periodic notes. But through this Obsidian plugin that I have created, I feel like it's easier, at least for me. And so you can look at all of those directly and navigate between those. If you click, it's going to expand or collapse a specific periodic note. So in this case, it's today's note. It's highlighted here in blue. By default, you just view it. It's a bit buggy. I will need to fix this. But you can also go into edit mode and make changes to those nodes directly, which is quite nice. And last but not least, you can also mark those periodic reviews as done. And this was something that I was missing because I could handle this through properties manually, but it was cumbersome. I had to switch between different views. I had to go on top and change the properties. So it took quite some time and I didn't like that all that much. But now, thanks to this, I can directly say, okay, this periodic review, yeah, that one has been done. So I don't need to go back to it. I know this has been reviewed already. And I can do the same for the different types of notes. All right, so this is when you want or need to focus on a specific set of notes. And so this is what I'm using within the week to review those. This is what I'm going to use each month to review the weekly notes and so on. Now, the next thing that this plugin includes, and I think that this is the most, at least for me, the most valuable, is the periodic review view. So again, custom-based view type. And what you have here is inside of a single grid, you have different columns, and those represent different time horizons. And so it starts on the right with the yearly notes, going down to the daily notes step by step. And so in this view, when you open it, by default, what you see selected is the current period, if available or created or whatever. If not, you will see a create button. So these you see are grayed out. It's because they don't exist yet. But again, you can just click and it will create those nodes and apply the template or template to those directly, which is quite nice. So I can already go ahead and create all of the notes for this specific week, which is nice. I can also, and in this case, it's always in edit mode, I can also edit my notes directly. And I don't have to look for those. I know exactly where I am standing. So we are looking at 2026, first quarter, first month, second week. This is Sunday, but today we are on Tuesday. And so now I can do my periodic review, and also I can mark those as done directly. Which means that when I want, and I'm in the focus of doing those reviews, I can just use this single view to do everything. Create the note, apply the template, focus on reviewing everything that has happened within that week, capturing the relevant information inside of the weekly note, etc., etc. And so you can see, for instance, week 1, I didn't complete it yet. I have to do that soon because I want to publish my next newsletter. But basically, this gives me not only a view to do it all, but also a process, because you see the way it goes. Basically, you go from one day to the next here on a given week. You take the information you need and you move it or copy or whatever over to the larger period of time to the right. You mark it as done and you go on. And when that's done, and if you are doing a monthly review, for instance, let's say that we are at the end of January, then you do this for every week and you mark those as done. And then when that one is done, you mark it as done as well. And that's it. And so it's a structured process to do those periodic reviews easily. And knowing exactly what you have completed yet already or not, and also giving you the opportunity to navigate between different periods. Yeah, I see that this one was not marked as done. It's actually done. Yeah, that's easy to do. And now, if I look at 2025, I have my summary, and if I want to focus on specific parts, so let's say that we are doing a quarterly review, for instance, I don't need the yearlies. I can focus on these because I have already completed all the other ones. This is something that I should improve. So this should take more horizontal space in this case, but it's an easy fix, I guess. And so what I can do is focus on this quarter and those 3 monthly notes to have a reminder of the things that have happened during that month, or during that quarter, rather. All right, I think that this about covers what I wanted to explain today. So you have more settings that you can explore in those base views. So here you can permanently hide specific columns. Actually, I have this to expand, make those bigger. I think there are more settings on this one. Yeah, so you can change the period type that you want to use, how many future periods you want to see, and so on and so on. I mean, those are details. And if we look at the journal basis plugin settings, yeah, that's one useful thing to mention. I paid attention while implementing this plugin to have strong integration with the other plugins that I'm using. So it's not mandatory, but if you have and if you use the periodic notes plugin, this journal basis plugin will detect it and will automatically synchronize the configuration. That means that it will automatically know where to find and where to store your daily notes, your weeklies, which structure to use for those, which template to apply to those. And so you don't have to configure all of that manually. And if I were to disable that periodic notes plugin, then I would be able to edit this configuration here. Okay, last but not least, just one thing to mention here. You can see that there's a property name that you can configure. It's the property, it's the name of the property that's going to be used by this plugin to track the completion status. So if we look at this specific node here, yeah, maybe not through this lens, but rather through this lens, you can see that there's a property that's been added by the plugin stating that the periodic review has been completed. And that's nice because since it's a property on the file, then it means that you can also leverage it in different contexts. So you can use a data view query if you want to find all of those periodic reviews that you have not completed yet or have completed. You can filter in basis using that. You can display that as a column in an Obsidian base. So yeah, quite useful and flexible. All right, so I think that I've covered pretty much what I wanted to cover today with you. It's a bit technical, but I think that if you are into journaling, periodic reviews, and productivity or life, personal development in general, you should find this useful. As I mentioned, I organized a workflow about journaling recently, dive into all of those topics. There's also the Noe community that you can join. That's a space where we discuss various things, including productivity, progress, content creation, Obsidian, knowledge management, and many other things. It's a really beautiful community that is growing. Yeah, and if you want to learn more about the different plugins that I've mentioned, I will add the links in the show notes. You will find different plugins also on GitHub, so those are available to install through the community plugins. This is something that you have to buy from my store. And the journal basis is not yet available as a community plugin, but you can go to the website and download and install it. So if you go to this release page, so we are going to use the web viewer. You just have to basically go to this release page. So you go there, you go to releases, you select the latest, hopefully, and then you download the zip file. And once you have the zip file on your computer, you have to extract it, and the folder that you get, you have to put inside of the .obsidian/plugins folder inside of your Obsidian Vault. And once that's done, when that is done, you can go to community plugins and you should be able to enable the plugin, and that's called the Life Tracker plugin. All right, I hope that you learned a thing or two with this. If you have questions, don't hesitate to add comments, share your experiences, the plugins that you are using or the templates that you are using. And yeah, I hope that you will enjoy this. See you later.